everything we've been taught about entrepreneurship and business ownership could be summed up with grind until it works. That is a lie. Yes, it's a season of every entrepreneur's life in the early stages, but unfortunately, we've turned that into a badge of honor. If we have a business that requires all of our time and energy and attention, it really owns us. We're not the boss, we're our own employee.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast. I got a special guest here, someone who was on my show back in 2021, if you can believe that. That seems like, I don't know, a long time ago to me, but I got the real Jason Duncan back on here with me. Excited to talk with him. How you doing, brother?
I am good. It's good to be back.
You got the black shirt clip today. I'm glad to see that. So those of you who are watching on YouTube.
What I do every day, I've got a whole drawer full of these. That's all I wear. I found something I like and I'm just sticking with it.
Just stick with it. No, I do the same thing for most of my time now too. I just got tired of trying to pick out what my clothes are for the day. And I'm only on camera when I need to be. So I'm like, well, black will cover it.
That's right.
Yeah. So for guys, those of you catching up and who haven't heard about Jason, let me give you some quick bullet points on why you should be paying attention to this call today. If you are interested in building a business that doesn't necessarily build because of you and maybe has the opportunity to run automatically and can possibly exit for a lot of money. He has been in business for many, many years. I've known him for probably, I think we met before our first podcast. So it's going on 5 years now, which is crazy. He's two times TEDx speaker. You met up there twice. Okay, awesome. He's the host of the Root of All Success podcast, which I've had the honor of being on, which is great. And he's also a co-host of Chisel and Compass. We'll have to talk about what that means. And he's a best-selling author of The Exit Without Exiting, which is something I want to talk about today. For those of you who know me, and we talk about building a business to exit. We also talk about the possibilities of how operations can be managed for you under a controlled process. We've talked about that before, and this is something that I definitely want to hear Jason's take on again. Because, and I'm sure 4 and 5 years of doing this since I last chatted with you about it, some of those things have maybe changed a little bit on that side. So maybe you want to unpack some of that. Tell anybody that stuff I didn't tell you that you want them to know about you.
You did well.
Well, thank you. Try to keep it simple.
Well, it's good to be back on the show, and a lot has changed. As a matter of fact, the book that I wrote, Exit Without Exiting, came out on March 3rd, which happened to be my birthday in 2023. And international bestseller, and it's been doing really well, selling pretty good. And I still get new clients and people inquiring about it. But this year, I've written a revised and expanded version because so many things have changed. So much I've learned now that I've done this process now with other businesses, other owners of other businesses, and we've refined it. So I've written the updated and expanded version, and I'm meeting with a publisher tomorrow, and hopefully by the end of 26, that book will be out as a revisited version of Exit Without Exiting.
Oh, excellent. New and updated case studies, I suppose.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of more than a couple client case studies. We'll be looking at what they did, what they were able to accomplish. I've got one client has been able to take off 3 months without his business collapsing. I've got other clients who've gone through acquisitions and purchases and starting new companies and their experiences. People have gone through some bad experiences and what we've learned. And then we developed the whole model, the XOS methodology, Exit or Operating System, after the book was written. As a matter of fact, it came out in March. And that year we started working on as a team, like my team internally, plus my clients, like how do we structure this to where it's something memorable and easy to follow and understand? And then in October of 23, we drafted the first rough draft of XOS. And then in 24, we started testing it, pressure testing it, make sure it worked. And now in 25 and 26, it is firmly entrenched in everything that we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it really is, I mean, in so many ways, I'm going to say it a simplified understanding of an opportunity, exit your business without exiting it. But there's a lot more to the hood to a business than that, right? Especially those who may be at the operator level thinking right now, how is that even possible? To replicate myself, replicate technology, people, processes, whatever's required. What's the abridged version of that maybe I'm, simplifying unintentionally, having run multiple businesses, and working to get myself out of the trenches of every component of the model. It's a daunting task in some ways, isn't it?
It is, because everything we've been taught about entrepreneurship and business ownership could be summed up with just grind until it works. That's what we've been taught. And that is a lie.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Now, is grinding involved early? Yes, it's a season of every entrepreneur's life in the early stages. But unfortunately, we've turned that into a badge of honor. And I don't understand why we've done that, because there's a much, much better way to do this. If we
Mm.
have a business that requires all of our time and energy and attention, we own that business. It really owns us. We're not the boss. We're our own employee. And we're no different than a guy who's a W-2 employee punching the clock at the corporate, corporate life. The difference is, in the corporate world, we have no risk,
Mm.
essentially no risk. Where here you have all the risk. Now, certainly there is some upside financially if we do it right. But for what? What are we exchanging that for?
Time.
And I don't think that's I don't think we should be exchanging those things for. We're exchanging our time, which is our most precious commodity, for money. And how silly it is. Like, money can
Well,
be reproduced. The time cannot.
and it's such a hard process to get past for those who might be listening to this, because I know for many years when I did the corporate thing, I felt like I was empowered, that my ego and pride, I guess, my output were wrapped up in what I was doing for a company. But in the end, when I got to 2007, I realized, that was all part of a giant lie. Something I was definitely something I was telling myself, as in, I can't do it myself. There's no opportunity myself. What am I going to do if I don't do this? How am I going to make it? How am I going to get health insurance? Like, just the fundamentals, right? Like, with a family, and some of you listening to this might be thinking similar aspects to that. Because I know I went through that entire process. Did you ever have a corporate job yourself too in the backer? Or
Yeah, well, I was a pastor. I don't know if that's corporate, but I was a pastor for 13 years, and
Well,
then
it's a version of corporate. It has its
I
own
taught
politics.
for sure.
and
Which
other
is why I'm
stuff.
no longer doing it. I was a school teacher for 4 years before I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, and I had, during my years of being in ministry, I had other corporate jobs as part-time gigs on the side. But so I have had my taste of it, but not what a lot of people, not what you went through, for sure.
Yeah, it's different road. Obviously, there's a certain version of corporate in that place, and there's corporate in the W-2 sense of the working world.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's one of those things that really gets tied to your identity. It's hard to recreate an identity. And how do you, as a business owner, create an identity in a business that you exit without exiting?
Well, I don't think our identity should be wrapped up in our business, frankly. I think I look at my experience when I was running my lighting company, whether I intended to or didn't know about it, didn't matter. The identity of who I was got wrapped up in that way too much. I mean, just handing a business card that said president and CEO of XYZ company, that's who I was. And when I exited, I still owned the company. I exited without exiting. And for 4 months, I went through a major identity crisis. I mean, it was unexpected. I wasn't prepared for it. And luckily I had a good mentor and coach at the time, and we met every week and we'd have lunch, and he kind of helped talk me off the ledge, as it were, because I honestly would sit down with him and say, I don't know who I am. I don't know how to introduce myself when I go to events. Because before, hey, what do you do? Or what, before I would say, well, I'm the president and CEO of such and such company. And now, like, I'm still the president, I still own it, but I don't have an office there. I don't go there. So who am I? What am I? And it took a while to figure it out. And through the course of going through that process, I realized a little bit more of what my true identity was, who I am. I'm a teacher. I feel like God's given me the ability to teach and lead in ways that a lot of people don't have. And so I've learned that my gift and mission is to use my gifts of teaching and leadership to help others. That's what I've learned, where before I was just grinding away as the owner of a small business when we were doing really well, and a lot of employees, a lot of projects. And our identity shouldn't be wrapped up in that business. There's so much more to who we are than just what we own.
But how did you get to that place? Like, what was your first business? You're a teacher, you were a pastor. Did you create a business around those things, or did you go do something completely different?
No. So in 2010, it was in March of 2010, a friend of mine named Bill, who was much older than me, he has since passed away. And he called me up and he said, and I knew him fairly well. Like, we didn't hang out a lot, but I knew him through church circles, and he lived about 2.5 hours away from me. And he said, oh, I said, what are you doing, Bill? And he said, well, I'm driving through Oklahoma right now, which would have been an odd way. Like that might not make, for a lot of people, that would be perfectly normal, but not for Bill. I'm like, what the heck are you doing in Oklahoma?
Right.
And he told me what he was doing. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And he goes, yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah.
So when he got back to Tennessee, we met and he said, I want to go into business with you. I've got a potential customer on this project, and we're going to do these on-demand hydrogen generators for cars. And I want you to be my business partner. And he had a lot of trust and respect for me. Obviously I knew nothing about business. I was a middle school American history teacher. He said, but
hydrogen generators for cars, that's kind of
yeah, nothing. I knew nothing about it. So against my probably otherwise, good sense, I said, yeah, okay, we'll do it. So
right.
In 2010, March of 2010, we started this business together. And in October, I think in October that year, I actually filed the LLC paperwork, like made it legit. And we never made any money. Like it was more of a hobby on the side. I had no intention of ever not teaching. So I continued teaching. So in 2011, went back to, in the fall of 2010, went back to school, taught again. And then something happened. In April of 2011, the principal at our school came to me, Mr. Holman. He sat me down and he said, we need to talk. I said, okay, this is probably not good. What's wrong? And he said, we're going through a lot of budget cuts from the Great Recession, and I have to cut 2 teaching positions for the next school year. And unfortunately, I've cut you. You're the last guy we hired, and you'll have tenure. And that's how I have to make the decisions. That's the policy.
Ouch.
Yeah. So here I am. I love teaching. I never wanted to not be a teacher. I was highly qualified in American history, or history in general, physical education, and I had my administrator's license, and I was the top teacher in the county in my subject area. So I was a model teacher. I was really good at my craft and wanted to be in it forever. And now I have to make a decision on what to do next. Now, I would love to say that my first decision was, well, let's just go get another job or another, or let's go start a business rather. But that was not my decision. My decision was, let's get a job. So I tried to get another job, couldn't get one. Long story short, I went to Bill and said, look, Bill, this hydrogen generator thing ain't going to work. And I think you know that. I know that. And I don't have a teaching job come fall. I've got 4 more paychecks. I need to figure something out. And I would like to actually redo this business and turn it into something legit. We'll do energy conservation rather than energy creation. And he didn't agree with me, but we parted friendly. He took all his stuff. I kept the business because I'd filed the paperwork and stuff. So I wrote him out of the LLC, and I gave myself until August the 15th, which is the last paycheck I was getting from the state, to get a deal. And on August the 12th, I got a deal. I got a $2.3 million contract with the hospital and to do LED lighting retrofits. And that propelled me into entrepreneurship.
Wow. A leap of faith. You weren't sure how it was going to turn out. And back against the wall, running out of money, 4 paychecks left, and you got a deal done 3 days before the last paycheck. Yeah. Think you were supposed to do all of this? Does that feel pretty divine? Pretty directed, or does that feel like just blind luck?
I certainly don't think it was luck, but I do think that our Father protects us when we need to be protected. And I think that I was protected in that moment. However, had April 5th or August 15th come and gone, I would have known any different. I would have gotten a job. I would have been selling something because I was a natural salesperson. I would have gone and sold something. And then when the education kind of turned back around and there were opportunities, I'd be back. I would have been teaching school again until COVID, and then I would have got fired because I wouldn't have put up with it.
Now that you know. Yeah. You wouldn't have done it. Yeah. You would have got fired. Yeah, no, there's things in that story that I want people to pull out of this because, there's always these stories that I think that are hidden below the surface of, and we tell them enough times because we go on podcasts and stuff, but there's always these nuances, and everybody wants that, they all want that 2.3 million deal, but they don't want the risk that it took to get there. The leap of faith for you to just go, okay, let's start a business. Let's go. And they sit there and acquiesce every decision, every possibility, every what if, what if this happens in the future? What if that? I mean, did you do any of that? Were you immune to any of those feelings?
No, not at all. I mean, there were moments when I didn't know how we were going to pay the bills, and the first employee I hired an assistant, and I didn't know how I was going to pay her. I hired a salesperson, didn't know how I was going to pay him. And every decision was, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And it worked mostly. I was talking to a guy today. He goes, I hadn't talked to him about 2 years. And he said, how you been? I said, well, it's mostly been good.
It's
Some
mostly
bad,
working.
mostly good. Right. And that's
You don't want
such
me to tell you the bad things that are happening, the stuff I jokingly say the pucker moments where it's like, hey, I got to put payroll on a credit card and hope we can pay this thing off next month. Right.
Oh
The
yeah.
risk. Yeah.
I've had to do that. I think entrepreneurs there's an invisible horizontal line. And if you go under that line, you're out of business. And
Right.
only you can see the line. And you know how close you are to that line in any given moment. And there were so many times that I'm straddling that line, maybe have 1 foot dangling below the line. And somehow, by the grace of God, we're able to pull it out of our rear end and make it happen.
Card
And
screeches around the corner at the last second. We're going
yeah,
off a cliff.
and you get comfortable with the concept of bankruptcy. And I know
You
that
do.
sounds kind of weird. You get
No, not at all.
like it's freaking scary to ever think about it. But in 2019, I thought I was going to go bankrupt. I went through a partnership divorce because I brought on a partner after Bill, and it was good for a while, and then it wasn't.
Till it wasn't.
Like a lot of partnerships.
Right.
And that year, I literally thought I was going to go bankrupt. And I don't think I've ever been as scared of anything for no good reason. I mean, it's just bankruptcy. Like, I know that sounds trite for people that are going through the trauma of that, but I don't mean to be trite. I don't mean to glib about it. But the reality is, it is just a piece of paper that says this happened and your credit gets wrecked, but it doesn't change the value of who you are. And I've luckily, praise God, never had to go through it. But I filed the paper, or filled the paperwork out. I've never filed it. Like, I've been that close before. And I think that's the danger of entrepreneurship, the danger that only entrepreneurs can embrace and be comfortable with it. If not, excited by it, they're at least comfortable with it.
We have a different kind of thrill seeking. Like I have to get blood work on Thursday because there's an update to the underwriter for my whole life policy. And it's like, hey, you got to go in and do this quick update. It wasn't supposed to go off. So now I have to get blood work. And then the check boxes on the insurance policy, it's like, do you smoke? No. Do you drink? No. Do you do these things? No. Do you scuba dive? No. And it's gone to the high risk side, right? Like, do you do these high risk things? I'm thinking, no, I'm not like a thrill seeker. Like, I don't jump off bridges and I don't base jump and I don't jump out of perfectly good airplanes. And, I'm not putting my life on the line, like thrill seeking. But isn't what we do like a version of thrill seeking? Like riding that line of opportunity, that line of possibly going bankrupt. In my case, I did go bankrupt. So I already went over the line. In the past, I already know what it's like to hold a piece of paper and have the shame and the walk of shame and have your family and friends all look at you and be like, you're an idiot. Like, you just proved it. Like, yeah, you got a piece of paper you're a certified idiot. We all told you it was going to happen. Why didn't you listen? Right? Like, everybody has the answers.
Yeah, I didn't know you went bankrupt. I missed that part of the story or forgot about it.
Full on into the walls, head smacked, bad business deal, got too far into the weeds. That old story. It really was $1 billion patented opportunity. Never saw the light of day because the partner stole the money, and I found out how much I had invested into it before they had taken so much out. And by that point, I was just too over leveraged. It was too far down the hole. It was a learning lesson in blind optimism. Yeah, it was tough. And I had, pregnant wife and 4 little children, and I had to figure it out. Just had to make it work.
But and that I was on another show earlier today, and the host was asking me, what's the definition of an entrepreneur? And part of what I said is, okay, there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. A business owner could be an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur could be a business owner, but they're not exactly the same. Generally they are, but they're not exactly the same. But an entrepreneur is one who's willing to take a risk in the creation of something that didn't previously exist for the betterment of society or the world or their own pocketbook, right? That's what an entrepreneur does. And that, if it were easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would become an entrepreneur if it were easy.
That's right.
And it's not. It's very, very difficult. We look at the Jeff Bezoses and the Elon Musk of the world and say, oh, these evil people that are billionaires are taking money from it. Dude, you know how many sleepless nights they've gone through and how much crap they had to put up with? And then
just bigger levels of risk.
Yeah, and they got rewarded. They got rewarded for it. And
I don't think about $1 the way I used to anymore. And that's something that changed for me in bankruptcy. Like, I don't think about $100 the same way anymore, or $1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million. I just don't think about them the way I used to think about them. Why? Because once you realize that they can all be taken away, you stop holding on to them and you start seeing them as tools. Once you shift that mindset, this is where in my world you take on less of the entrepreneurial side and you take on more of the business owner side. And that is, while I will risk things to keep things going, I will try new things to keep them going. I will also focus on the fundamentals and the basics and the principles of business to ensure that I don't end up in a place where I have a pregnant wife in a basement in Tulsa filing bankruptcy again. Absolutely not. So how do I mitigate that? How might you do it? And how do others maybe think about it? Well, me personally, I just know that I constantly put myself, and not out of stress, just out of drive to feel what it's like to remember going to that place and dealing with those things and trying to figure my way through it. And obviously, for me, I came to a place where I had to let go and let God because I had failed it all and couldn't see the forest through the trees and didn't understand how it all had occurred until years later when I kind of unpacked it all and was like, wow, that's how messed up this was, and kind of came through it and reinvented it and changed and went forward. But I never realized, how close to that line between entrepreneurial and business there is until you're willing to risk everything to gain something from it. And now I know I'm willing to risk everything. So I'm always in that place where I feel that level of risk pushing me. Like that becomes my tenacity. That becomes my drive. That becomes my willingness to outwork, outperform, outmaneuver anybody else. And just literally by competing with myself to never go back to that place. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that means that I can outwork, outdo, outmaneuver the people that are around me. I got to remember that's just not how everybody works anymore. But it isn't out of need anymore. It's just out of a conditional drive to never go back to that place again.
Yeah.
Never feel like it. Right.
Yep.
Not recommended.
Yeah.
But,
well, and there's some of us like me who are too stupid to figure out the first time around. You got to do it twice before you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that the second time. And,
you learn to judge risk differently. That's what it gets down to.
Well, you do. I went through another terrible, terrible situation in the late 23, early 24. And, I found myself in that through to say no fault of my own would be not true because obviously
Sure.
I had something to do with it, but mostly I didn't have anything to do with it. It was somebody else that caused the problem. But here I am having to pick up the pieces.
You got to fix
And
it.
I remember thinking, golly, doggone it. Here I am again dealing with this crap that I should not have to be dealing with. And, so trust, but verify like that,
Always, you can't do a good deal without a bad partner. And how do you even identify bad partners? Well, you get crushed by some of them. And so you figure out how to maneuver your way around the other ones because they're always going to be there or somehow they're going to be involved if you're in business.
Yeah. The two major problems I've had in business, my tenure as an entrepreneur, which started in 2010. So in 16 years of entrepreneurship, the two major brushes with near financial collapse have been because of business partners.
Business partners who eventually you figure out aren't capable of doing what you thought they were. They've talked a pretty good game. And then in the end, you get blamed for the problems. We got sued by a guy years ago in a business deal where we let him acquire part of our software and he took it over only to find out later on he embezzled more than $500,000 from the company with hidden bank accounts and things we didn't even know he was doing, and then had the audacity, because it's the legal justice system, to sue us for another $200,000 he felt he was owed in the process of being discovered embezzling the money. And so we had to go to court to defend ourselves to only get to the very end of the mediation with a businessman. Thank God he was chosen to be our mediator because he owned a large business and he understood business, only to have him basically go, you're probably right. I can't tell you that you are, but you can spend $100,000 more finding out that you're right, but you're never going to get that money back from this guy. So do you really need to be right? And so we settled out at the end for like $700 a month for some loan we didn't take out that we paid on for 18 months to end the deal. That's how it came out. You cannot do a good deal with a bad business partner. And you don't always know how they are going to impact you or who they are or how they're coming at you.
Yep.
It's tough, right?
Well, and that's why you got to have good legal counsel. You got to have
you got to have good legal counsel,
and you got to have good documentation. I tell you that the legal profession is going to be in a world of hurt with AI because AI is helping write a lot of these legal documents. Yeah. I'm not an advocate that you trust AI to be your lawyer.
No,
but getting a lot of the first drafts of this stuff it saves you $10,000 writing up the drafts
Oh, yeah.
the right way, and then have an attorney make sure it's legal and defensible.
Check it up, package it up. There's a lady who's being sued for $10 million right now because she fired her lawyer, took OpenAI, if I'm not mistaken, and go fact check me on this one. But she's ending up getting sued for $10 million because of the fact she was suing somebody frivolously. Fired her attorney, used all that documentation only to prove that there were no laws and some of the things she was stating that she got from AI. So guys, be very careful with that.
For sure.
Legal can get you in trouble, but it can be great to map out stuff very quickly. Just seek legal counsel. Good documentation, very important.
I used to always think that, I'm the type of guy, and I'm assuming Neil is as well. We don't know each other well, but as well as I know you, that we're the type of guys we could do business on a handshake. Like if we shake hands, we're probably going to more than likely going to do what we say, right?
Yep.
But I used to think that's all that was necessary, and I don't believe that anymore, because no matter how good a dude is, that memories shift.
They do,
and that's why you got to have the right paperwork, because memories shift. And so if I'm going into a deal with somebody who's a friend or a trusted ally or somebody, and I say, okay, we're going to do this deal. I say this, you say this. Yeah, we agree. Okay. That isn't enough. Like, we have to write that crap down, because if we don't write it down and memorialize it with signatures, I don't even know that you need to notarize it, but as long as it's memorialized in signatures, at least there's a memory device, because time passes and your memory of that deal is very different than my memory of the deal. I thought I was supposed to get 38%. You're like, no, you're supposed to get 10%. Like this is the memories that are different. And then we become enemies because our memories are bad, not because we're bad people.
That's right. The memory of the deal. Yeah. Memorialize it as a memorandum of understanding. Write it down. It's really easy to do, and no one should be offended by that process, right? But maybe it's because we get older, maybe because things are shifting so fast, technology and other things. Maybe we're just doing too many things and not paying attention, so the details get lost a little bit.
Well, I signed a new contract with a marketing agency just this week, and they sent over their standard boilerplate agreement. I had Claude, my legal assistant, go through and read it for me. I said, hey, you're my advocate. What do I need to do? Yeah. And it said, hey, here are 5 things that you need to consider. So I looked at 5 things, like, you know what? That's right. Because the guy who spoke to me on the phone, like, said the things that Claude pointed out, but they weren't written down. Okay, right?
Valid.
Okay,
Valid.
so that's cool. So I wrote back to the guy. I said, here are the 5 points. I had my advisor take a look at this. I said, we need to take a look. Are you okay with putting this in? And he came back and said yes to 4. And the 5th one he explained. And there was a really legitimate reason why, we don't really need that. And I was like, cool. He said, well, send over the language. So Claude gave me the language. I sent it back to him. He put it in the document, brought it back to me. Then I took the document, ran it back to Claude. I said, is this what I agreed to? And he's like, yep, you can sign it. So if that goes sideways, that's on me for trusting Claude too much. But
make sure Claude knows which jurisdiction, which county, and which state is the record of that legal, and it'll do its due diligence. You just have to know when to ask it. It just won't do it. And hey, here's the thing: don't use Grok. We did this a little bit ago. My partner threw a legal doc in Grok. That rhymes, and he got the information back, and he thought, "Wow, this is great. This is exactly what I want to see." And he's looking through this stuff, and he goes, "Hey, wait a second. That doesn't look right. It's like documenting something." He was smart, caught it. Otherwise, would have glossed over it. It made up a legal precedent that didn't exist.
Oh yeah.
And stuffed it in the document, and you didn't even know that the way that it had added it, it was an addendum, a bullet point addendum, and it added it, and it wasn't even law. It just made it up. Who knows where the heck it got it from? Scraped it from a Reddit forum, but it wasn't legal at all. He's like, this stuff is just making up stuff, throwing it in, making it look legal. If you didn't know any difference, you would have acted on it.
Yeah, we're in cool times and dangerous.
We are.
If you're not looking. It's garbage in, garbage out. It's the same thing we've all been taught ever since calculators were invented.
So true.
Or people started cooking.
Yeah, when you turn it upside down, right, moved on it, and then we knew we were garbage in, garbage out, right? No,
I've got a bumper sticker like that, a little sticker.
Dude, the calculator upside down. Yeah, it's advancing. It's amazing. I got Claude in the background programming some stuff I asked it to do, and it's just, I can see it scrolling through in the background doing a whole bunch of work for me that I'm not doing right now.
That's the same right here on my laptop, just on the
sitting
right.
back there chugging along, doing what I asked it to do earlier. So there's a purpose in usability. Just try to make sure you guys don't get yourself into legal hot water and go bankrupt because you trusted AI. That's something I see people doing too much right now. There's a meme I saw earlier on Twitter, and people are now tagging Grok and asking, is this true? That's like their constant litmus test now. And somebody had a thing where like a caveman was pounding a rock and it's like, rock, is this true? And it's like, yeah, we are actually dumbing down in some ways to the idea we just trust these systems, like whatever they do and whatever they say. And guys, please don't do that.
Nope.
If you get anything out of this call today, don't do that. But yeah, how much is AI playing a role in your ability to run your businesses now? Is it really playing a huge impact, or is
huge.
it still, how much are you using AI now for?
I had a really great conversation with a friend of mine last night. We got together and smoked cigars and hung out and had tacos and talked for 3 hours about AI and life and business and stuff. And we were talking about this very thing. So in the last, well, let me back up. 2.5 weeks ago, I interviewed a guy on my podcast who designed one of the very first ever dating apps and sold it for like $250 million. And now he's gone on to do some other stuff. And he's designed a new AI program. And in the interview with me, he said the dividing line in entrepreneurship is 2025. He said there's 2025 and back, and there's everything after 2025. He said if you look at the agentic AI that we're dealing with now, where they can actually do things, it doesn't know things, it can do things. He said this is the difference. And 2.5 weeks ago is when he told me this. I'm a pretty deep LLM user. Like I use Claude a lot. I use Perplexity probably second most. And then ChatGPT, I'm using less and less and less as it goes on. I never use Grok. I use Notebook LM every once in a while. But,
that's pretty good.
So when the guy's name is Alex, when Alex said this on my show, I'm like, I need to dig into this because I know he's right. But I don't know how this
specific
works.
date and line and
right. So I went and I went in to visit a client of mine I saw him on a Thursday, and on Monday or Sunday afternoon, Monday, he had learned how to use Claude Code, and he had already built some amazing things for his business. And I looked at it, I was like, holy crap, you got to show me how to do this. So since just 2.5 weeks, dude. So 2.5 weeks, I have now built an entire website, an entire web portal for my clients. I've developed web apps. I've fixed things that our tech team in my company have been working on for months and couldn't figure out how to fix. And I'm like, I'll just tell it to do something, and it does it and deploys it. Not just tells me how to do it, it can deploy it. Yeah. So I'm connected. Claude Code is like changing my life. Like I can go in and have Claude Code now connect with doing some light video editing. It can produce podcasts. It can push podcasts to my website with RSS feed. There are so many things that the agentic AI can do, not just the language models, but the agentic, where it's actually acting as an agent on your behalf. Another cool thing I did, and I want to get these guys as sponsors of my show or become partners. It's called Marbleism. You ever heard of them?
Marbleism, no.
Yeah. So it's an AI agent. I don't get paid for this. It's 6 AI agents that they deploy, and you can use it on your phone, desktop, wherever. One is your assistant. One is a legal advisor. One is a social media manager. One is a sales agent. One is a receptionist and blog writer. So these 6 people, and they all have names, and they all work together, and they can communicate. So they're totally connected to my Google workspace. They're connected to my calendar, Gmail, all that stuff. They're connected to LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all the platforms. And right now, in just a week, I think a little over a week and a half of using them, like it's changed everything. So when I'm in a meeting on Zoom, Eva, my assistant, shows up, she transcribes the whole meeting. And I know Zoom has tools to do this, but it doesn't communicate with anything else. Zoom is one thing. But now Eva can communicate that to all of my other agents. And so my social media manager might hear something in that meeting and go, oh, we should talk about that in a social media post. Or my sales agent might pick something up that I said on a sales call, and he can use that as sales copy in an email that he sends on my behalf, or a LinkedIn outreach they send on my behalf. It is absolutely phenomenal. And the price is insane. It is crazy. I paid a little over $200 for a full year of access to these agents. And they're doing stuff for me constantly. It is
amazing. We're looking at, and the funny thing is, I understood everything you said, and I understand the intricacies of what you're doing and how it's being done. But most people have no idea what's going on or what's coming. Like 0.0, I thought the other day, if you added it up, the number of people who actually understand to some level of what AI is and where it's going, like 0.01% of the world even has a clue what it is and what it's doing. And the rest of us are trying to figure it out to some degree. we're building a plane while it's taking off because it's moving so freaking fast that the plane's leaving the runway before we put the wheels on it.
Yeah.
And we're literally trying to understand and incorporate these things into existing businesses because we know that this is that point where someone else is going to figure it out faster than us. And with the 10x force multiplier you can have with AI now, they're going to catch us and overrun us before we even, is there like, we feel like we're behind now. I was laughing earlier. Like, I feel like I'm getting like 10 times behind with 100 times the output with 1,000 times the confusion. Because it's just like, you sit here sometimes and you look at it all and you're like, okay, what major thing do I think I can do next? Or what major thing do I want to change? And then I try to bring it all back down to what do I actually need to do? And where should I actually be spending my time so that I don't vibe code change or organize my way into a black hole and go, well, that was a lot of fun, a great learning experience. And now I can't do anything with it. So I'll pivot and move to something else and back out of it. I was like, okay, no, it's just got to stay focused on those things that are most important. And it's something that, I showed you last week, something I was building, and it's gone even 10 times farther than that since I showed you. I've gotten to, in that particular app that we're using for Reels and moving out physical products on platforms and creating a Reels engine. I'm now TikTok partner certified. So I get API access to that creator platform and Instagram creator marketplace. And now I'm building Reel engines around each of our brands that will go across multiple channels, multiple social platforms, pull in the customer intent data, formulate the product imagery as well as the video, put it all together and edit it itself into an 8 or 15 or 30-second video, and then push it all back out to the brand. It's a multi-tenant system now since we last talked that is going to power all 16 of our brands in a single marketer, multi-push way where all of this agents and information is going to be running in almost autonomous nature. It's insane how fast we can move. And
I think that every major change and revolution that we've had over the history of humankind, the industrial revolution, the technology revolution, all the things we've gone through, we're now in the AI revolution as things are changing. And what I think we're into, because in 22, December of, was it November, December 22, ChatGPT released. And it was just a language model. And that's all we've really had access to as the general public for 4 years. Now, here in 2026, now we have access to all these agentic models that, like, you're having people, it's doing marketing for you, and it's doing sales calls, and it's doing emails, and it's doing things, and it's building code, it's writing things. What we're seeing right now in this revolution, just like I think we've seen in all the others in history, is at first people are a little tentative about it. Like, I don't know what this is. And then there's the doomsdayer predictors, like, oh, this is going to make the end of the world. Okay. Then that kind of subsides. And then it says, oh, well, we're worried about the jobs that are going to be replaced.
The knowledge jobs and all that.
They always have been. But those people somehow always figured it out because we abhor a vacuum. Like the universe abhors a vacuum. If there's a vacuum in something will fill it. And so if we've got a vacuum of jobs, something will be filled. We'll figure other things out. But here's what I've noticed, Neil. I think here's what I'm noticing is that the big boys and the major industries and business classes that are going to be most displaced, not individuals, but industries, are pushing back hard. So for example, Meta, I think, just announced recently that they weren't going to allow any vibe coded apps at all on their, or Apple announced no vibe coded apps on the Apple Store.
Apple announced it.
And then Meta announced it, like no vibe code or no Claude run Meta accounts, like ad accounts.
Yeah.
Well, why? Like, why would they care? Because I think Meta's been in bed with the agencies forever anyway, because the agency will say, money back guarantee if this doesn't work. Well, they're probably because Meta's paying them on the back end, because Meta is the only one that wins in all this stuff.
Right.
They're the only ones that win. So anyway, I think they're all pushing back. This is probably going to be another 6 to 9 months of push. And then they're all going to go, okay, like, all right, Claude can run your Meta ad account. And I'm looking forward to that, because why should we have to pay people to do what a computer and an algorithm can do much faster and better?
To those who can manage, build, and deploy computers that can compete with other computers.
Yep.
Because it really won't be your and my ability now to understand, interpret, and run advertising. It'll be, does our language model interpretation and LLM outpace, outmaneuver the competition who's using theirs to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Going to be system to system at that point, right? With
Yeah.
learning and knowledge that at some point will be greater than you and I can comprehend. And I'm at that stage at this point where I'm looking at it going, we're reaching that place fast. If we're not, somewhat conscientious of what we're doing, it's a race to replace. And these things get faster and smarter, and then they don't need us. And then you get websites like the one I saw earlier, I think it was realhumans.com, where you can have your agentic agents go there to buy time from real people to complete real world tasks on behalf of the agents so they can complete their task. Hired humans.
It's crazy, man.
It's
crazy.
fascinating and scary and hopefully not Orwellian in its outcome as we do these kinds of things. I see it so well in the way we can now multiply products and images, graphics, videos, the marketing, the research, and all the stuff that's required for multiple platforms to run our physical products across all these different rails, right? I'm just the guy with the engine running on the rails. They could run the rails wherever they want and however fast they want to run it. I just want to stay on the rails, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a slightly different aspect than the guy who used to put the rails on the ground and the one who was shoveling coal, because they're going to become obsolete.
Well, I know a few people, not many, who are resisting this AI stuff, and they're saying, I don't want to do that. It's the downfall of humanity, or whatever their belief is. I'm thinking, dude, listen, if you don't embrace it,
somehow
you're going to be left behind. It is absolutely going to leave you behind. It is the new tool. It's like there are pictures of back in, I think it was, I don't know, it was the 50s when calculators became a thing that you could carry around. And then all these teachers were thinking, no calculators, no
TD1s in class. That's right.
Kids are going to be stupid if they can use a calculator. And the same thing happened when Google and the World Wide Web came out. Is like, hey, no, you can't use the web. Well, what's the difference between using Google and using a World Book Encyclopedia like I did when I was a kid? And I was writing a report. I went home, got my World Book Encyclopedia out and turned to M for Mars. And I did research on Mars and wrote a paper about Mars. The difference is it's faster. It's faster. And now AI is allowing us to do it even more quickly, because we can go in and say, what about this? It has it. And it can, like Perplexity will actually give you the source where it came from. So it's not just guessing like ChatGPT and evidently Grok and all these others. It's showing you the source so you can source it. And then you can go to an agentic model and you can say, I would like you to produce X for me, and it will do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make us stupid.
No, but I think the danger is that the systems are learning in that time frame, like in 99, 2000, 2001, when the dot-com bubble busted and everybody's like, okay, let's rethink how we do this correctly and how we run forward. And then between 2000 and 2005, the whole commerce protocol, online email, everything, web pages just exploded in that 5 years, right? After major faults were made. We're making major faults right now. I mean, Meta, like you mentioned, had huge issues this last month. First time it's ever had those kinds of major issues. Amazon had like 6 Seb 1 tickets because they vibe coded themselves into oblivion a number of times and blamed it on AI. And I don't know if it was or not, but they had major outages and issues. They are, in essence, 1999ing it right now, where you're going to see about a 5-year period of absolute explosion. I agree. I don't think that people are realizing, though, that the difference between that time frame and this one is that we were learning how to use the systems that could not learn yet. Now the systems are learning. They're learning on their own. They're growing on their own. They're moving on their own. What shapes it very differently in the next 2 to 5 years in my world is whether or not I can understand how they're learning, where they're going, and what to apply them to, so I don't become obsolete in the process of them doing what they're going to do.
Yep.
Because they are becoming smarter. They are getting faster. They are replicating across industries very quickly and replacing all kinds of things in the lower tier to mid tier jobs. But here's the thing: they're going to replace a lot of that knowledge worker jobs between the $102,000 and $200,000 price point for the W-2 world. It's going to be gone. What they won't do for quite a while is outplace the business production people who have services, technology, physical assets, and a byproduct, an outcome that can't quite be produced yet, until people roll up warehouses, dark manufacturing, and all the bots are doing it and all the agents are doing it, and it's all completely autonomous. And now products and things are being pushed out the back end by completely robotic systems, which inevitably is going to happen.
Yep.
It's just the process by which we're doing it now. It doesn't mean that everybody's gone and all jobs are gone. It just means it's going to shift, and it's going to shift because it's learning to shift without us. We're not having to learn it. All we're doing right now is trying to learn how to make it relevant so we don't get rolled over by it when it gets smarter than us, which it's already doing.
Well, there's jobs that exist today that didn't exist 20 years ago.
That's right.
There's jobs that exist today that didn't exist 100 years ago. There are jobs that existed 100 years ago that don't exist today. Yeah. It's the natural cycle of how humanity works. And I'm not afraid of it. I'm embracing it. Let's go, because it's making it easier to do business. Yep. It's making it more interesting to do business. There are ways that it can steal time from you if you don't watch it. It'll zap just like anything else.
Yeah.
But I think AI, the revolution that we're dealing with is exciting. And I'll also think it's humorous. Like, I got a book, I'm not going to say who wrote it, and I'm not even say the name of it, but somebody sent me a book called, I'm not going to say the name of it, but it's on AI. And I'm like, that book was out of date when
irrelevant.
Like when it
by the moment it was published.
I don't even know why would a publisher, and probably self-publish, but why would you even spend the money? Because it's like,
that's what I mean. You're getting into the education and knowledge side, even down to, well, how do you run multiple businesses and don't exit them, but exit yourself out of them? Well, it's happening. It's happening on a scale that is now completely realistic, doable, achievable. However, you can't train or educate it under normal standards anymore. Yeah. Classrooms, somebody asked me the other day on another podcast, they're like, why'd you jump out of college? Look, well, the internet was there. Like, I was 3 years into an irrelevant degree. I was 3 years into a major pivoting point. I couldn't stay in college and wait around to see what was going to happen. I had to get out there and get it done and figure out what was going on. And the follow-up question was, of course, what would you tell college people or students who are in college right now who are, in programming or science or communications or marketing or other relevant, or irrelevant fields of study? And I'm like, get out, get your hands dirty and get learning, because it's all right in front of you and you can learn it, trial it, error, do it. You may have to burn through 100,000 tokens to figure it out, but you're going to figure it out. And the thing is, you're going to be way ahead of your peers who are still in college trying to get degreed, when in actuality, the degrees will be irrelevant. They'll be irrelevant, and the jobs they were trying to get when they were being educated are going to be gone.
Yeah. Well, if you're in computer software, I would tell a young person now, if that's where you want to go, you probably don't need the degree. I would agree with you on that. Yeah. But I would say double down on learning how to leverage the AI models that are available. OpenClaw, Claude Code. If you know how to do it, like you said earlier, Neil, 0.001% of the population even knows what we're talking about. That means that even though it's available and it can do amazing things, most people don't know how to do it.
Yep.
Right. So if you know how to do it, your service and your time and your ability is worth a lot of money,
because it will be striving for it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how to do Claude Code until 2.5 weeks ago. And my client, just by happenstance, he learned how to do it. Said, sure. We went to his house. He sat down on my laptop and for 2 hours showed me how to do it. And within 30 minutes, I had a whole new website. That's insane to me. I don't know how that works, but it did. And now I know how to do it. I'm the only person on my whole team of 7 people that knows how to do it.
That's where we're at. And that's the opportunity.
Person on my team.
Yeah. Right. Well, we're not spring chickens, but we saw things that others didn't understand. The sense of urgency is different. And I hope that's being translated to those of you listening today. If you're roughly within our age, I just turned 50. You have to understand that what we went through and the change we saw is your opportunity to pivot and shift right now. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't say, well, engineering is never going to be touched because I'm an engineer and I got 20 years experience. No,
not true.
Sorry.
Not true.
The math can outmath you.
That's right.
The systems can out-design you. The graphics and engineering can create the designs, CADs, and everything to precision. And learn how to adapt to that. Learn how to use that. Take that degree and take what's happening in the world of engineering and become somebody who can control that, use it, manage it, put more output. There's always opportunities. Just don't put your head in the sand. I mean, if you're in any role right now that has any impact or possibility of impact in a business, or even your W-2 career, you need to do something with it. You need to be learning. Your job could become irrelevant. You could be that one guy last standing in your W-2. Hey, I don't want a job or a business. I just want to be in my job. Great. Become the last person of the 7 people in your group who knows how to run the systems and everything. So when the other 6 are let go, you can manage it.
Yeah.
If that's where you want to be, that's how you take over, right? But don't just stick your head in the sand. And I'm an old fart now talking about it. So I guess at 50,
No,
I'm an
no,
old
no,
fart.
no,
Is that how it
no.
works now?
Listen, if the listeners, you heard Neil, he's 50, I'm 51. Like if
Oh,
we're two 50-year-old guys that know how to do this stuff and you're younger than us, you're going, I
you
don't know
better
what you're
figure it
doing.
out.
Dude, you better figure this crap
We
out.
were laughing the other day. You said, "You better run, squirrel." That's
That's right.
from that movie. You better run, squirrel, and you
Yeah.
better run fast because if we can figure it out, and it's
Yeah.
happening as quickly as it's happening, and you're 20-something-year-old or 30-something-year-old listening to this, even in your 40s right now, you're missing it. Catch up.
Listen, a few hours, somebody could show you how to do this, 2 or 3
That's right.
hours, and the time that you take to watch a football game or a baseball game, you could have figured this out, and then you spend the next few days playing with it because you will
Screw it
want to
up.
play with it. I promise you, you'll want
Yes,
to
you will.
play with it. And once you get those few days in, you will be better than 99.9% of the planet on how to do this stuff.
Yeah. And you will find it's fun, it's engaging, it's challenging, and you're going to get pissed off because it's technology. So just expect as much, right?
Mhm.
And here's the worst case scenario. You can't break anything because if you do, you ask it to fix it and it fixes it for you. That's what
Oh,
everybody's fear is.
Like
Is
it's
like, oh, I'm
true.
going to break
I lost
something. Well,
my
just
whole
break it.
my whole media kit on the website completely disappeared when I launched the new website because Bob didn't build that one page. And my assistant sent me a message last night. She goes, "Your media kit is nowhere online."
It's
I'm like,
gone.
"Oh." So I just went into Claude Code today. I said,
Yep.
"Hey, can you find my media kit because you didn't put it in here? Now it doesn't exist. Like it's gone. It was there and now it's
Yeah.
not there." And it said, "Well, let me go to the Wayback Machine," which I don't know what that is, but it went to the Wayback Machine, found it, pulled it back in, and then said, "Hey, the old media kit had old information, and you're going through the rebrand. Let me update it for you."
Nice.
Okay.
It
Boom.
will do things you can't imagine that it's going to do and suggest things you didn't think of. And then it's going to really help you out. But I tell my girls quite often, you guys are moving into a world where if you figure out your area that you want to be passionate about, love, make money with, or whatever, you need to think about yourself as the air traffic controller of that environment. Like you need to be looking at the other areas, the other planes that are landing in your life and area, business, whatever. And, your girls, you may not want to go as far as the boys do who are listening to this. In our world, I'm not pushing my daughters out to be power women of the world, but I still need them to understand what's going on enough
Yeah.
to take advantage of it when they can take advantage of it in the ways they can, but to be thinking of themselves not as I'm a operational cog in the wheel. I just need to understand how the operations come together. And like an air traffic controller, I just need to make sure they're moving and flowing and not running into each other.
Yeah.
So all these systems and things we have now, you need to understand how that all interconnects and then take a benefit from it, charge money for it, teach others how to do it and charge them money for it. Take a win, but just don't sit around on it. If you're just listening to this today and not doing anything, get out there and do something imperfectly. There's a lot of fun to be had. And like you said, if there's a couple old dogs that can do it, you guys can get in your 20 somethings, you could figure this
right.
out real fast. You should be able to anyways.
I did that already this morning early.
Did you? I didn't make it
yeah.
out early enough, so I'm going to grab my wife and we're going to go for a walk now to get that in. But man, it's always fun talking with you, and I enjoy your company. I enjoy that you're challenging yourself, that you're always trying to better yourself and others in what you do, and that makes it fun to have you on here to listen to what you have to say, and hope everybody who listened to this day got something from you today.
Thanks, man.
Guys, like, share, comment, engage. And as we always say on here, do something imperfectly and something imperfect will happen along the way. Catch you guys on the next episode.